It was supposed to be a typical Friday night shift at the Burger Chef in Speedway, Indiana. November 17, 1978. 4 young employees were closing up the restaurant, likely looking forward to the weekend. But they would never make it home. What happened that night would become one of Indiana's most infamous and heartbreaking unsolved mysteries, the Burger Chef murders. Remember to like, share, and comment so you don't miss future episodes of the Calendar of Crime. The victims were 20-year-old assistant manager Jane Freed, 17-year-old Daniel Davis, 16-year-old Mark Flemons, and 16-year-old Ruth Ellen Shelton. They were hardworking, bright kids with their whole lives ahead of them. Jane was a dedicated employee, recently promoted. Daniel was saving up for a car. Mark was a popular high school student. And Ruth Ellen was an artist and a musician. They were the kind of people you'd meet in any town across America. The alarm was first raised the next morning. A fellow employee arrived to open the restaurant and found the back door unlocked. The safe was wide open, and nearly $600 were missing. But more disturbingly, Jane, Daniel, Mark, and Ruth Ellen were gone. At first, police wondered if it was a case of youthful mischief. Maybe the kids took the money and ran. But their purses, coats, and cars were still at the restaurant. This was no prank. This was something far more sinister. The search began immediately. Family, friends, and law enforcement scoured the area, their hope turning to dread with each passing hour. 2 days later, on Sunday, November 19th, their worst fears were realized. A hiker discovered the bodies in a remote wooded area in Johnson County, more than 20 miles away from the Burger Chef. The scene was devastating. It was clear they had been the victims of a brutal and senseless act of violence. The cause of death varied for each victim, a chilling detail that suggested a chaotic and terrifying final few moments. Investigators were faced with a complex and baffling crime scene, or rather, a lack of one at the restaurant. The place had been cleaned. Not professionally, but enough to obscure critical evidence. The robbers had taken the money, but why abduct and murder 4 people for such a relatively small amount? This question has haunted detectives for decades. Was it a robbery gone wrong, or was the robbery just a cover for something else? The investigation kicked into high gear. The Indiana State Police led a massive effort, interviewing hundreds of people and chasing down every possible lead. Early theories focused on a robbery motive. Police looked into other fast food restaurant robberies in the area, trying to find a pattern or a similar method of operation. But nothing quite matched the sheer brutality of the Burger Chef case. One of the first major breaks, or what seemed like one, came from a witness. A 16-year-old boy told police he saw 2 suspicious men in a car outside the Burger Chef just before closing time. He described one man as being in his 30s with a beard, and the other as clean-shaven with light collar-length hair. These descriptions led to the creation of composite sketches that were plastered all over the news. The bearded man and the light-haired man became the public faces of the evil that had visited Speedway. But despite the widespread publicity, these individuals were never definitively identified. As the years passed, the case grew colder, but it never faded from public consciousness. The families of the victims lived in a state of suspended grief, desperate for answers and for justice. The police department never gave up, passing the case files from one generation of detectives to the next. Then new leads began to surface. One of the most significant theories involved a local gang known for robbing businesses. Informants pointed fingers, suggesting the murders were connected to this group. There was talk that one of the victims, possibly Mark Flemons, might have recognized one of the robbers, leading the perpetrators to eliminate all witnesses. This theory seemed plausible, but concrete evidence to secure conviction remained elusive. Another compelling theory centered around a potential drug debt. Rumors circulated that one of the employees was involved in a drug deal that went bad, and the robbery was just a smokescreen. Investigators looked into this, but again they hit a wall. There was no hard proof to substantiate the claims. The whispers and rumors added layers of complexity to the case, but didn't bring police any closer to an arrest. One of the most promising and ultimately frustrating developments came in the mid-1980s. A man named Donald Forrester, already in prison for another crime, confessed to being involved in the murders. He provided details that seemed to match the crime, and he even implicated others. Investigators were hopeful. They even had him lead them to the supposed location of the murder weapon. He led them on a search, but the weapon was never found. His story kept changing, and crucial details didn't line up. Eventually, authorities concluded that Forrester was lying, possibly seeking attention or a deal. It was a crushing blow to the investigation and to the families who had their hopes raised. Over the years, other names have come up. Other confessions have been made and retracted, but none have ever led to an indictment. The case file is now thousands of pages long, a testament to the decades of work put in by law enforcement. Forensic science has also evolved dramatically since 1978. DNA evidence, which was science fiction at the time, could now potentially crack the case wide open. But the initial crime scene was cleaned, and the passage of time has degraded what little physical evidence was recovered. Still, investigators hold out hope that some small, overlooked piece of evidence might one day yield a DNA profile. The Burger Chef murders left a deep scar on the community of Speedway and the entire state of Indiana. It shattered the town's sense of safety. People were afraid. Parents held their children a little tighter. It was a stark reminder that horrific things could happen anywhere to anyone. The Burger Chef restaurant itself was eventually torn down, but the memory of what happened there remains. Today, the case is officially still open, but it is very much a cold case. The original investigators have long since retired or passed away. The parents of the victims have grown old, with some passing on without ever seeing justice for their children. But a new generation of investigators, armed with modern technology and a fresh perspective, continues to review the files. Online communities and true crime enthusiasts also keep the story alive, sharing information and theories, hoping that someone somewhere knows something. The biggest question remains, why? Why abduct 4 young people for $581? The brutality seems entirely disproportionate to the crime of robbery. This has led many to believe that the motive was more personal, that the robbery was a secondary act. Was it a grudge against one of the employees? Was it a planned hit disguised as a robbery? Did one of the robbers get recognized, causing the situation to spiral out of control? We may never know for sure. What we do know is that 4 young lives were cut tragically short. Jane Freed, Daniel Davis, Mark Flemons, and Ruth Ellen Shelton are not just names in a cold case file. They were vibrant individuals with dreams and futures that were stolen from them. They are remembered by their loved ones as more than just victims. They are missed every single day. The legacy of the Burger Chef murders is a somber one. It's a story of loss, of a community rocked to its core, and of a search for justice that has spanned more than 4 decades. It serves as a chilling reminder that even with all of our technology and investigative techniques, some mysteries remain stubbornly, painfully, unsolved. The hope is that one day, a long-held secret will be revealed, a guilty conscience will speak up, or a forgotten piece of evidence will provide the key to finally closing this case and giving the families the peace they have waited so long for. Thanks for watching. If you have any information about this case, no matter how small you think it is, please contact the Indiana State Police. You never know what might be the final piece of the puzzle. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. See you next time.